Hi, and welcome to a small, medium, at large podcast. I'm your host, Gail Heisen, bringing you intimate interviews beyond normal boundaries. Let me tell you about our special guest visiting us today. Holly Laskey was born in California in 1947, and she came into her full self 38 years later. Holly has a BA in transpersonal psychology and a master's degree in human development, early childhood education, leadership education. She has over 20 years' experience working in medically oriented positions in doctors' offices and hospitals in California and Oregon. Holly was the program manager and cook in Massachusetts at the Bear Meditation Center for Buddhist Studies. In the early 90s, she ran a wonderful daycare center to which my son attended, and this is how Holly and I met. In 2013, Holly followed her dream of going to Peru, a move she made without her family, friends, or the knowledge of Spanish. She bought land and began construction of Ancestral Highlands. Today, we will hear about the journey Holly has been on and how she got there, and how this led to her creating Ancestral Highlands Cultural Center in the tranquil, lovely, high Peruvian Andean mountains above Chavín, Peru. Holly researched and worked with architects to recreate buildings of the ancient Peruvian times, as well as the Espejo de Agua, the water mirror, which is a reflecting pool reminiscent of the practices of local agricultural peoples' viewing of the sun, the moon phases, star reflections in bodies of water to determine the correct time for planting, harvesting, and tilling. She and her team host traditional Peruvian ceremonies with groups and individuals in their stunning ceremony room. Ancestral Highlands also offers tranquil hotel lodgings and meals for guests that are just retreating from their busy lives. She prepares meals for guests and offers recommendations for local exploration of Chavín de Huantar and surrounding areas. These areas are part of the Chavín World Heritage Archaeological Site and continues current excavations led by Stanford archaeologist John Rick. Holly says, and I quote her words here, "It is in view of my current contentment that I break my life into its evolution. When I look back, I say, sure has been interesting, and it continues to be. What do I attribute this evolution to? Don't we often say, well, it was because of this or that? That's a part. Yet I sense there is a greater mystery to it all. What a blessing. Were those many years an easy time? On the outside to others' observation in the communities I grew up in and later lived and worked in? And to myself also, maybe yes, quite positive. That is what it made it so difficult to see the cracks. In order to heal from them, they had to be acknowledged, felt, let go of, with some new understanding found. This is what this evolution offered me. How have I come to leave my roots, pack up, live and work in a different culture, different language, country with such fulfillment? Once again, the mystery. My heart swells. What a beautiful life. Today, at the age of 75, Holly is living with a newfound openness and gratitude and joy. Let's welcome Holly here today. Hi, Holly.
Hi, hello, Gail. Good to see you.
Good to see you. I know that we're having this special moment of you actually being in California before you head back to Peru. So we were lucky to grab you before you return to your homeland there. I have to ask you questions because I know you grew up, I believe, in Lodi, California, and
Yeah.
that you had a family that I think has a few generations that lived in that area. So you had a really rooted place in Lodi, and I was wondering if you could talk about what that was like growing up. And as a child, did you get exposed to other countries? Was there seeds planted then for your desire to go to Peru?
Yes, deep roots here. I'm right now sitting in the house my grandfather built that my daughter and grandson now live in, 105-year-old house here amongst
Wow.
the wine grape vineyards of Lodi. So it was very traditional. All the
Mhm.
families here at that time, basically knew each other, saw each other, in church, in school, in 4-H, everywhere we went. Very connected, very stable. My parents liked to travel, but it was limited in the United States. I was selected to be a foreign exchange student out of high school, which
Wow.
was a dream, but I never received a placement in a home in another country. So maybe that was part of my dream, still incubating in there. Um, so y- yeah, very stable here. I, did not travel outside of the United States in early years. Later, I did a little bit of travel. I was did a cruise to Greece and Turkey and a few things like that. But that was it. So this new life in Peru really kind of came out of the blue in many ways.
Had you
Um,
been, had you been drawn, was there anyone you knew from Peru, or was there any interest that started stimulating you to the idea that, hey, I think I should go there and see what goes on in Peru?
well, I think it was a part of, thank you for your recommendation. The sound healer, traditional Peruvian sound healer, Tito la Rosa, now
Yeah.
pretty well world known, was offering a program at your house. And you suggested I might like to be part of this, which was absolutely fantastic. Um, and it was after that connection with him and really being drawn to his work and his saying, if you really want to go to Peru, I will take you. So actually, I went with Tito and three different groups to Peru three different times. And each time we saw a little bit different part of the country, but he always included a visit to Chavin de Huantar, where I am now. And there's something special about this place for many people. It has a magic magnetic draw
Mm.
where you just want to be there, where it's offering something deeper. So it was at this point that I felt like, yes, I want to be there. I want a place there. And the personal healing I had experienced in the past, um, I wanted a place where I could offer this for other people of similar interest, as well as a hotel mountain retreat for people that just want some time with tranquility out of the cities, out of work. So that's what started my time there.
I,
And
I, I,
uh
I, First of all, I was there when we're talking about the flower ceremony with Tito La Rosa, and the thought of you and him traveling together was so exciting to me, but I never knew that it was going to grow into you starting this amazing place, which I believe he's also been to and done ceremony to honor the building of this. Because I think what our listeners may not understand is you hiked around the mountains with everybody trying to find this special place. It wasn't like a realtor came up and said, all right, I got 5 acres here. You want to buy it? No, you put your heart and soul and your body schlepping around at these altitudes until you found this magical place. So this wasn't just, oh, I think I'll buy real estate here. So I was wondering, you didn't give up, because I remember it took a while till you found it. You weren't going to just settle on every piece of land that you saw. So what happened when you first came upon the piece that you have right now?
Well, it's true. I was walking in the rain in Chavin de Huantar for a full week looking for a place that fit all the dimensions I was hoping for. And nothing was turning up. And I was ready to leave. And the local shaman uh, was going to ride in the taxi with us. And he said, well, do you want to see my family's land? And I thought,
Wow.
oh, one more, why not? No.
Yeah.
You know, so let's go. And up this windy dirt road we went. And I laid eyes on this land and it was like, yep, that's it. That is absolutely checks all the boxes. Another one of those magic pieces of this whole journey. There was nothing there. It was a mountainy site, a hilly site, and it was nothing at that point but a wheat field. Had never had anything else to it. Um, and yet I could see I could see something about the dream there.
Hmm.
So it was, yes, I worked with this shaman and his 6 brothers and sisters over 7 months to purchase this land.
That I have to say, my knowledge of Spanish is, más o menos. I know yours was pretty much zero.
Minos.
Yes, was Manos all the way, and I know how difficult it's been for me going through customs and other things in Mexico, or trying to use my Spanish, and how sometimes when I mean to say something, it's really exactly the opposite of what I was trying to say. So I'm wondering how you faced that, because you were dealing with legal papers, and you're buying land, and are you, as an American citizen, allowed to go to Peru and just buy land? Each country has a different rule about what an American can do there. I know when we went to New Zealand, like 40 years ago almost, you could buy land there if you wanted, but it was limited to 5 acres only. And that was the New Zealand rule back then. What's the Peruvian rules?
Well, I was told over and over at that point that it had recently changed, where people from the United States, other countries could purchase land in Peru. It was a recent change. Now, so I went with that. I worked for 7 months with a Peruvian attorney who was familiar with this type of terrain to make sure I did everything legally. And I had already built the initial stages, the first 2 years of construction on the land, when I went to one of the government bureaus for some reason, and they went to look up my property in their computer. And shock of shocks, this woman says to me, "Well, you can't own that land."
Oh, wow. I never heard this part.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So what
this is
happened?
adventure on adventure on adventure.
Yes.
I said, "Well, I'm sorry. I have the paperwork. I have everything registered. I purchased this land. It's paid for." "No, I'm sorry, you cannot own this land." And I said, "No, but I put 2 years of construction into this project and all." And I just kept trying to argue with her. And finally, she went to talk to a superior and came back and she says, "Okay, it's yours." Oh my gosh.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So this is kind of similar to a lot of experiences I've had in Peru. And if trying to go to immigration to talk to them or anything, things can go round and round. It's very hard to get straight, concrete answers in Peru, and especially for me with no Spanish. This was very chancy. But luckily, at one of Tito la Rosa's retreats, I had met a man there, and I said, "I just purchased land here. I'm looking for an architect." He says, "I'm an architect." And he was actually a professor of architecture in Lima, Peru. And so he became the architect for my project.
Wow.
And he had had 1 year at Harvard. He had had some education in in England. And so for 2 years, he was basically at my side, and he spoke enough English that we did very well. What a blessing. Or it would not have been possible with me with no. And like you say, I can think I'm saying something and people laugh and look at me and it's like, okay, what did I really just say? You know? So
I
yeah,
know
I
one of the ones I used to mix up was green. Instead of saying verde or tree, saying, is it green?
uh-huh. Uh-huh. Well, some of them are tricky to me, like the word here in the United States, tuna. In Peru is atún. And if you say tuna in Spanish, Castellano, it is the cactus. So it's very confusing. Am I saying tuna or am I saying cactus? Am I saying tuna or
Right.
atún? Yeah. Yeah, and just
And
simple pronunciation is hard too sometimes. But
and how did you
yeah, so
find, like, did you find this, my travels have been, I spent a lot of time with the Huichols in the mountains of Mexico. It's the only thing that I can kind of compare to what you're doing in Peru. And I had to go through all kinds of crazy things to be able to get down there, to be able to just give away with no strings attached, shoes and clothing and food to 150 families that I did. And the crazy things that went on for me to be able to give something away free, I didn't think I would have such difficulties. But I found that there were two kind of people that I would run into while I was trying to do this. The ones who wanted to actually hustle me more and take advantage of me, and I might not notice. And then the ones who truly, from their heart, were so happy that I was there to help their people, that they were just nothing but pure love and wanting to do anything they could to help me. I was wondering, did you experience these similar types of, you know, con men and the sweetest souls you could meet? Did you have that type of experience in trying to do business and get wood and have builders arrive and get the cement or whatever? Just me imagining how difficult it's been for me here, because I've done so much construction just as well as you have in Lodi, where we've built houses, we've built pools, we've done so many things, you and I. The things we met here are so difficult. I'm trying to imagine that 10 times more difficult in another country and with a language barrier. So if you could talk a little bit about the trials and tribulations of that experience.
yes, and I've been there 12 years now, and I have to say it still continues to this day. So over periodically over 12 years, I have done different construction eras, three different eras, and each time I meet these challenges, these complications, and things that I can take for granted in the United States in building and everything that just aren't available there. And how do you work with this? And what are you working with? And who are you working with? And yes, it's very challenging. And I have definitely met the hustlers. And I have also met the huge hearted, very helpful people. And I'm out in a very rural mountain area, the Andes of Peru. And the village, the town I'm in, is very rural, and part of why I like it so much, it's still very traditional. The people's dress, their lifestyles. It's a very agricultural area, but it's very old time and traditional. And so besides hustlers, I would say there are people just don't understand,
Hmm.
and I don't understand. It's difficult to pick up on the differences sometimes. Um, and for the first few years, I was only known as the gringa. That was it for many years. And I am very happy to say now most of the people know refer to me as Holly. Or if people are new in town looking for my place, a place to stay, whatever, they also refer to my place as the domes up on the mountain. But yeah, the most of the taxi drivers now know about me and all. And I have my wonderful caretaker on the land who was also very helpful to me. And it's amazing how much we do communicate because his primary language was Quechua, the very ancient language in that area. It's not Spanish, it's Quechua, which is huge long words that I will never master. Um, and he does speak Spanish also, but he doesn't know English. But we have our words, our ways of communicating and understanding, I think, a lot in context where we do pretty well together. Um, and with my taxi drivers and things that people I've really connected with, we do pretty well.
I bet there's some telepathy that happens after a while because as when you start, I find my dear friend Julio and I, Spanish is a second language for him. Huichol is his first language. Spanish, second language for me. Well, we've invented a few words that we've used for the last 25 years that one day my daughter, who speaks fluent Spanish, said, you know, Ma, those aren't words in the Spanish dictionary. I said, I know, but Julio and I have been using them for years, so we think they are, you know?
It works for you, so.
Yeah, and then I find charades is the other, to
Uh-huh.
move around the discourse, and then that's how we communicate. And I find it to be a very, it's very special because you're reaching into a different place. You're not using it all with words. But I think there's still a telepathic communication that happens, especially if you've been seeing these people for years and years and they're local rural people. I think they must feel you just like you feel them. And I think you visited once and I met a very nice friend you made down there that owns a restaurant, or I can't remember what was her name.
Philomena.
Philomena. And she seemed like a really good, like you'd found a really good friend in her and somebody that would, be there for you to discuss anything if you had questions about something that was going on. Is she still in your life?
Yes, she is. She owns Bonjourno restaurant and hotel there. And she has more educational background and experience than most people in that area. So that helps our connection too. And yes, we can share on a lot of levels where I bring in things for her that she was never allowed to live there. And ways of living and being, and she offers the same to me. And cultural exchanges and all too. So it's treasured as it is with many people around there. And the community directly above me on the little dirt windy road above me, they're all Quechua speaking. In their homes, the children, everybody still only speaks Quechua. The children don't learn any Spanish until they enter kindergarten.
Hmm.
So I was very aware too of the cultural difference and coming from the United States and feeling like, I didn't want them to know me as a gringa, whatever that means. But I wanted to be very careful to not enter their culture or something. So, and I'm very happy to say at this point, the people in this village are are very connected to me, even though our language difficulty there. But they were also my initial building people. They came down, and there's not much work offered there in this area, and they were very happy to be able to work and build my initial domes. And so at this point too, they also feel a special connection to me and this project, and they are protectors. They watch out for it. They are on the road past me somewhat daily, and anything unusual or poor going on, they are connecting with me. They're checking in with me. So that is a wonderful feeling too, being in this country without family, without, direct family, original family, and all. It's very
So
important
you
to
are
me.
creating new family. It's not like you're alone there now. You're making, having family connections. I have two questions. One is, I first want to just ask about, and hopefully I'll have a picture to post here in this exact spot, is when I saw when you're discussing domes, I had no idea. I have never seen a dome built like these. And if you could talk about how these domes were constructed, and I believe that their origination is of the ancient times of Peru. I'm not sure. I don't want to say the wrong thing, but if you could tell our listeners how these domes are made, and then we'll have a picture here for them to see because they're magnificent.
Yeah, they are quite wonderful. And blessings to my architect, where he was, teaching the young people, the going becoming architects, and they just want to build. Their only interest is building high-rise modern buildings. And
Yeah.
thank heavens this architect was very in tune to the cultures and all in the mountains and all. And he said, please, we need to build something to fit the culture and the land. And it fit my heart also. And so he did many drawings and plans, came up with this dome structure, and actually brought his students out, spent the night on the land in tents to get the feel of the land and all that were helping him design this project. Um, so yes, they are not so much ancient buildings, but they are old, typically old, earlier years. Being an agricultural area and rugged mountain weather and terrain, the people herd their animals by staying on the land with them through the nights and all, protect them and herd them. And so they quickly build these little um, shelters, structures that are dome shaped, just with some of the grasses for a roof and maybe some mud and stone walls. So that is similar to what we constructed there. And they were all built with the stones, the mud from the land there. And they were all built by the local workers. And when I mean that, this is such high mountain rural terrain, and the agriculture there are no tractors. Everything is done with animals by hand. And so these workers, they carried the trunks, the eucalyptus trunks that we built with. They carried the stones. They meshed the mud to mud these structures. Everything on their backs and by their hands. Even I had two 70-plus-year-old workers who were right there, keeping up with everybody else. I mean, they don't know, they don't complain. They just work, work, work hard.
And
So
what I remember of the photos was wasn't the wood like it was placed differently than I would ever imagine, where we saw the cut parts,
yes, you
the
don't. It wasn't
circle.
cut It wasn't cut linear. It was cut across the trunks of the eucalyptus trees. So and then plastered the entire um, above the stone base of the rooms on up over the dome roof and down the other side. Just all you see is side by side by side trunks of these
Yes.
trees, and they are thick. It is very thick walls. So another wonderful part about it in these high mountains is the insulation that they provide. They cut out sounds that add to the tranquility. They cut out too much heat or too much cold or rain. So when people walk into them, I often hear, oh, it's an instantaneous feeling. It's almost, I guess, almost womb-like.
Yes, that's what womb like, and what a wonderful place. Is the ceremony room in one of these dome-shaped buildings, or how is the construction there? Is you have a ceremony room, and then you have places to rent out rooms to people to stay there when you're having retreats? And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about some of the ceremonies you've had there and how the mirror pool is used, and if you've used them in ceremony there.
Okay, yeah, the ceremony room is very much also this natural material dome. It's wonderful. It has a beautiful large window that from we can see the mountain terrain and all through there and my gardens. It has the only fireplace that had been built in that town. Um, it's a wonderful
The
space too.
town, wow.
Yeah, yeah. The floors in all of these domes are also natural wood. There's no processed wood sold there. There's no chemically treated wood, pressure pressurized wood. No, it's all natural wood. So yes, it's a wonderful space, and it can be cold and stormy out and groups there. with the fireplace going and all. And yes, we hold the Wachuma cactus, San Pedro cactus ceremonies there with guides or
Could you
shamans.
could you tell our listeners, because I had never heard about Wachuma or San Pedro until we had an Ecuadorian shaman here. So for our listeners who don't know anything about Wachuma San Pedro, could you explain why it has two names? And could you explain what the cactus is and how it's prepared or how the ceremony is conducted?
Okay, Wachuma is the local ancient name for this cactus, one type of cactus, and the name was changed by the Catholic Church to San Pedro. Um, the my site is directly in line above the ancient archaeological site, World Heritage Site of Chavinda Wantar, and as they find artifacts and all there, they see that these Wachuma ceremonies were held ancient times. So this is very much a part of the experience of Chavin. I think of the energy that underlies all of this there. The cactus is harvested for the ceremony, prepared. Some people strip the green exterior off and only use the white center. They use the whole plant. They cook it down for hours, often in big kettles over open fires. Cook it down until it's just the liquid. And then in a ceremony,
Mhm.
small cups are offered to each person. Some people recently have actually said, I didn't have any trouble with it. To me, it is very hard to swallow. It is not tasty, but it had so various
I've tried
shamans
it, I have
guide.
to agree.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So various shamans guides come in that I'm acquainted with. I'm very particular who's offering these ceremonies at my place for safety and their expertise, and that they're doing it something real. There is so much going on
Mhm.
in Peru now where people have started to see, oh, you say you're offering Wachuma, people come from all over the world for this. And so they hang out a shingle and they say, okay, we sell Wachuma. And they'll sell it in reused plastic bottles. You never know actually what's in it. And they're selling it to anybody to go use on their own. Well, I'm very particular about who offers these ceremonies and the safety of the people and all, and the care of the people. So these ceremonies can
That's
go on
wonderful.
for hours, a single ceremony, and often include music, singing, drumming, music provided, ancestral music from the local area included in the ceremonies, which is wonderful. The ceremonies offer potential for people to go deeply into themselves, experience some of
Mhm.
their own pos- maybe issues or things holding them back or whatever, help them bring it out and clear it out. It also helps people connect with the ancestors of the area and their wisdom. So they're very powerful ceremonies, and something that I wanted this specially selected land where it was connected to nature. It was private, it was secure for people wanting to enjoy these or participate in these ceremonies. And it's also evolved. I don't, maybe once, twice a month we have these ceremonies there. But the other times it is fully open
That's wonderful.
to people leaving their busy lives that just want a mountain lodge retreat hotel experience. And also our
Yes.
dining room there is these trunks also. So you're also entering this womb as a dining room with all the natural wood. And I enjoy, I do prepare all the meals there at this point by myself.
I have to
Um,
say, you and I always uh, do texting or communicating from Peru to home here, and I've seen and read some of the most amazing dishes that you're preparing there. And all I could think to myself was, how did she find this? Or how was she able to prepare this meal? Was she able to get everything she needed? And you're cooking gourmet meals here that people aren't going to get. I mean, it's just I think that's an amazing extra to offer when people are doing, whether it's, getting rest from their busy life or whether they're doing an intense retreat, whichever way it is, to be able to have high-end, delicious food prepared for them is an extra special offering that you're doing. And you're 75 now. You're not a young spring chicken, and yet you're able to keep up with all this demand and manage the organizing and scheduling of these people. I wanted to know if you could talk a little bit about, because I want to come visit you, but my biggest fear is this high altitude thing, because I know I had it at the Huichols. I was at 10,000 feet elevation, and it really takes me a while to get used to that. And I was wondering how that was for you being, low to, we live in a, low, we don't live at high altitude. You didn't grow up in high altitude. How did your body adjust, and did you have anything there to help you, or how do you get through that high altitude adjustment?
No, I was very lucky. I didn't have extreme problems with it at all. Some people
Great.
that come, they have a lot of altitude sickness problems, and especially if people are coming from, like through Lima, which is sea level or low level areas, and come too quickly up high altitude, they can tend to have more problem. So you know, a day or two in other stops on your way up there is very helpful. Also, when people are there, if they're having a problem, play headaches or so, like that, the we have a plant that grows naturally on my land in the mint family, um, and picking that and making tea with it is very helpful. The coca leaves are very
Mhm.
important there. And for since ancient times, people working these high altitudes have chewed the coca leaves. And it's not a drug, it is a health, it's a benefit for people. It opens the cells in your lungs, helps you breathe more easily. So when I first got there one time with Tito la Rosa, got out of the car, I can't breathe. And
Ah,
from then on, they told me make plugs of the coca leaves, keep them in my cheek day and night, and also make a hot coca leaf tea and drink that. It helps amazingly. No more problem with that going on. And now I no longer even pay attention to that. To me, I think people that are not born at altitude, maybe our bodies are never fully going to adapt to that altitude, whether it's our heart structure, our lungs, whatever. So my land is hilly, uphill, downhill every day, which is a health benefit long term, I think. But I still can start panting, and I can't really talk when I'm hiking those hills. But I don't have any extreme problem, and it's gotten easier with the years. But yeah, for guests, it's we're at 11,000 feet. It's take it more slowly. Drink
mhm.
water. Drink coca tea, mate de coca. There are ways.
Are you anywhere near the Machu Picchu site, or is that very far from you, or?
No, I'm quite a ways from Machu Picchu, and by car it would take days.
Mm.
But basically, you go to Lima and take a flight, airline out of Lima to Machu Picchu, which is then very, very quick trip. But it's quite a distance. I'm actually higher, and I am actually at above a more ancient site than Machu Picchu is in,
Wow.
in years. So I and National Geographic years ago did a wonderful job of bringing Machu Picchu to people's awareness, and it is spectacular. And Cusco is a wonderful city to visit and shop, and uh, that is all very nice. But people don't know that much about Chavinda Wantar, my World Heritage site there. And I like to try and do my little bit to promote what I can to come see this, where the city culture and the whole terrain, everything around is still more traditional. The tourism is less, so it's not built up. There's not a lot of huge shopping and things for tourists there, but you do get a more, to me, in-depth cultural experience, and of course visiting Dr. John Rick's archaeological site there uh, is a phenomenal experience. Where Machu Picchu is high altitude, built spectacularly up on the mountains. Where I am in Chavinda Wantar, it's underground. So
Wow.
as you go into these ancient sites and temples, and it was a huge ceremonial site, and you go underground into these places, to me that adds another mystery, another feeling to the whole experience as you go down in these tunnels and these little underground rooms and all, and what all were they doing here? you know
I you get me so excited when you talk about this. That's I like I want to buy a ticket. I mean, I'm just saying that's the kind of travel that I enjoy, not the tourist one. I like to be immersed with the people and being as traditional as possible. And I'm grateful to the travel that I did, some of it many, many years ago in countries that now it's very different to go there. And not like what I was when I saw it in the 80s or just even my time with the Huichols. I started going there in the mid 80s. And now I mean, when I went, you had to go on a burro for 16 hours or a mule
Oh,
on a little narrow ledge cliff thing. And I was told I was the first white woman that had come to their particular area in Santa Catarina, that it was a very remote area where I met Julio's and his family so many years ago. And I go there, if I were to go there now, I've made 6 trips there. They now have running water, telephone, cell, bus things. I mean, they didn't have a light bulb then. I mean, just so that's why it's so great that you did this 12 years ago as things keep changing and how and how the internet brings things and makes the world smaller. I'm grateful for the times and places we could have gone to many years earlier before they change, because once they change, they're not going to go back to no phones and no electricity. They're now in the next, when I saw them, as my father said, they're living in an era before the chimney was built. So, and that's all changed. So
yeah.
you're right in the middle of doing this and being at an archaeological site. Do you ever have any psychic or intuitive or dreamlike or feelings of presences of souls or past spirits that may have walked that land? Or have you had any of those kind of experiences during a ceremony or just being there with yourself on your porch looking out at the vast mountains?
Yes, and that's kind of an orientation that I feel for myself too. This is what really attracts me to something that I feel spiritually deeply. And yes, some experiences. One, my land, one of the huge gifts of the land where I am is I have in the Quechuan word, pukio, a spring, a natural phenomenal volume spring that is all the water for my land, very pure water, no chemicals. It is so fantastic. Um, and one night when there were some people doing Wachuma ceremony in a starlit warm weather night out on my land, so we were outdoors, and all of a sudden it caught all of our attention, not just mine, but everybody's attention at once. These three women in long black dress came walking together across my land and disappeared off towards my spring. And people there said, "Oh, yes, of course, your spring is medicine waters." People have gone there for years. Even before I was there, more recently, people came from the town below with their jugs to get this water that they swear has medicine benefits. So there was like that. There was one time when I was at the archaeological site and I was just sitting on one of the ancient walls looking down on one of the circular ancient ceremonial areas there, and just I had often been drawn to it. I was wondering, always wondered what went on there, what was this about? And just sitting there quietly, bringing in kind of meditative practice and all, just trying to be open to what would I see. And I feel like I hit a time, kind of a middle era time, not the deep ancient times, but a middle era time where from the more traditional spiritual practices in the area in the Andes, where more priests had come in the temples and all. And so there was that influence on the people. And I just felt like I accessed that time, how the change was happening for people coming there for ceremonies. And I didn't say anything to anybody about it, the experience, for a couple years. And later I expressed it to somebody, one of the shamans, and he says, "Oh, yes, I had the same experience there."
Uh,
So this was an interesting little validation, but also interesting to me that this energy, whatever you can experience there, and when you go down in the tunnels and all, it's, yeah, you feel it.
I had no idea that there was underground, from the photos and things I've seen from you that you sent me. I didn't know, I hadn't noted about that. I'd only noticed everything above. So these are ancient tunnels that are there, and these were being used by the Quechuan people back hundreds of years ago. Is that what we're saying that's underneath there?
Yeah, pre-Incan. Pre-Incan
Wow.
peoples, yeah. And yes, these tunnels way underground, it's very interesting. These peoples, very connected to nature, to the land and all, seem to have an amazing understanding of water and how water works and all. And they had these rooms underground and all for ceremony, whatever they were doing there. But they built these deep down trenches, tunnels underground for flow of water. Um, and very interestingly, the flow of water through these areas, of course, made their sounds. And so that was very much a part of the people's ceremony too, where the water sounds and all. And there's one place at ground level above the tunnels and all where there are like five holes together in the earth. And these fascinate me. I love to go there. A feeling is possibly at the time of changing, bringing in more religion, these holes were the first speakers. They were sound speakers for the priests, for people, ceremony underground. With these holes, the sound of water came up through these holes and made, to fit in with the spiritual connection with water, with nature, and also any sounds that the priests, other people, the shamans made underground with their conch shell patutos, with the ancient instruments, would come up through these speakers. And of course, to a very natural people without formal education and all, these sounds coming up out of the earth were, I don't know what you would say about them. They probably were shocking, they were phenomenal, they were spiritual. I don't know how all the people felt about them, but very powerful. And they were just manipulating the water.
Wow. So
It,
is your what is your climate like there? Are you is it very cold? Is it very rainy? Or what's your what I'm sure do you have four seasons there? Or what is it like year round?
yeah, and I've come to feel Peru is very much like California in a lot of ways, and we sit on a similar Pacific Ocean coast. And we have the same, we have high mountains, we have ocean, we have desert, very similar. Where I am at 11,000 feet, we have the seasons, and I'm south of the equator. So I don't, I have trouble tuning in agricultural land and my land being totally without chemicals and all. I want to grow some vegetables and things for preparation to feed people there, but I have trouble getting a handle on the seasons for planting and all. Um, so we do have the seasons. We have wonderful, I love strong winter storms, thunder, booming, booming through those mountains, and lightning and heavy rain. We can also have the heat there. The actual temperature um, is not as hot as what experiencing here in California.
Mhm.
Uh, and yet it feels hotter in some ways. I feel like we are so high up, we are so close to the heavens, there's not much filter of the sun rays there. And when that sun is beaming down, I feel like it pierces your head, your body, your skin. So it can feel very hot, even though it doesn't register as that high a heat. And
Mhm.
and of course, climate change. Who knows what all is happening? But I have been there a Christmas where there was a children's program out around my Espejo de Agua, the water mirror, and they had a local shaman was offering a program for them, and the children sitting there, and the sun was bearing down on them. It was so hot. This was for Christmas, and we finished
Wow.
that program, and they all, in my water feature there, they all went, shoes, clothes, everything, right into the water. And I have also been there for Christmas when it is cold and rainy and windy. So
Right, climate change, you can't now, it's the same here, you can't actually predict. But if a person that's watching this show is interested in contacting you and going to Peru, what times of the year or what months of the year would you, knowing people coming, say, from California, when would you recommend would be the good months to go there? Of course, we know climate change could make anything happen, but what would be sort of the ideal time?
well, and it depends on what people like too. If you just want to hibernate in a dome or something and let it storm, if that's possible too. But as far as getting around and touring and experiencing the archaeological site and things, the primo month is May.
Mm,
Generally, May is absolutely beautiful. The rains have stopped. Everything is a quilt blanket of greens on the mountains around there. And the temperature is very comfortable, very just perfect. April, May, early June. They're all wonderful times. And of course, any of it is fine too. The hotter months are hotter months, like in the United States.
mm.
And it gets drier and browner and a little dustier and all. But really year round is pretty possible.
And
Um,
what route do you fly? Do you fly out of Sacramento or San Francisco, or how do you get to Peru?
Well, from where I am in Lodi, when I'm still back here visiting family and all, yes, I like the Sacramento airport. It is small, it's quieter, very manageable, and close to Lodi. So I fly out of there. San Francisco is very possible. I always choose my stopover. There's not a direct flight from California to Lima, Peru, and I have one stopover, and I choose Houston, Texas. I'm used to that airport and it's very workable for me. But people fly from all over the United States, all over the world, and fly into basically into the capital of Lima, which
Mhm.
just reopened. They redid their airport. There is also an airport that is in the middle stages of being built where you can fly an international airport directly into Cusco by Machu Picchu. So that's
Oh.
also a possibility for people.
Mhm. So, uh, I have some questions here that we've covered a lot of them because you and I can just talk. I don't need to ask specifically each question. I can see we've covered a lot. I just wanted to ask a little bit about your family and what this is like for you, because this is where I feel you're so courageous that I know you have a close and loving family, and I've met your children, and I know you have grandchildren, and I know what a wonderful mother and grandmother you are. So there's no issue about anything like this. So, how are you able to handle, that leaving the family situation and being the grandmother and going to Peru? Does your family visit you there? Do you plan on coming back and forth? Are you finally getting to a point where Peru is going to be where you're going from now on and that they have to come there? Or how are you managing the family dynamics in relocating and creating a new life for yourself in, because that's where I'm thinking that's where you're also planning to stay until the end of your life. So I just was wondering if you could talk about that because these are very big, courageous things that you're doing.
It has so become my home, and I so love it there. That yeah, it has become my newly chosen home. And the first few years, I was there 6 months of the year, back in California 6 months of the year. Um, and of course, when I wasn't there in those days, my facility in Peru was just closed down. So that was challenging too. But now I am there much more of the year. Like I say, I absolutely love it there, and the people I've connected with are very dear to me there. Um, and yes, I'm here right now in my little visit once a year to family back here, back in the family home, and my daughter very graciously welcoming me here. It's a little strange being a tourist back in my home country. But she is not really interested in visiting Peru. Her son, my grandson, was there with me one Christmas when he was 13. He absolutely loved it, and people there loved him. He hopes to come back someday. My son has been there. He was there for the inauguration, and he has been to Machu Picchu. He is looking forward right now to, I hope, gonna be there again in April or May. He loved it there. He loved my project, and also, so that's a joy to me too when I can share it with them and
Hmm.
introduce. He's a traveler too, but introduce culture and all to them. So yeah, it's just been slow process, and I have just, slowly, uh, and this idea, how'd you get there, why there, and I don't know. It's all a mystery. But when I think back as a child, vacations to me were to the mountains. That was
Hmm.
solely vacation time, and I lived in the flatlands, the vineyard lands, and all. So to me, to be living now in Peru in the mountains is phenomenal. I wake up every morning before I even get up. My view out my bedroom window is the mountains, and the
Oh,
mountains there are so spectacular. They're really rugged. The mountains here in California are beautiful. The wooded mountains. There in Peru, they aren't they aren't treed. They're bare, rock, rugged mountains. So they are very spectacular in that way, too. And then, of course,
powerful.
the parts of them where there were the glaciers and all, which unfortunately are melting a lot now. Get there quick, people. See the glaciers while you can. Do your mountain trekking. There's a 2 hours from me is a worldwide mountain climbers mountain center, Huascaran Mountain. People from all over the world come for that mountain. So
So, how do you like? Are you still an American citizen? Do you have Peruvian something, or how are you able to live? This is important for people who are thinking about doing things like this. How are you able to? Do you have to come home every year, or how does this part work?
yes, I need to come back. My U.S. citizenship also, and I new now have a Carnet Extranjeria card in Peru. That with a business there and the length of time I've been there, that says I can be there, come and go without restriction.
Wonderful. So
Yeah.
it was creating a business that gave you more access to travel back and forth. And the United States doesn't give you any problems, right? You're allowed to can you still collect Social Security or and
Yes.
yes, and still
Yes,
be in
and I still, I still have my property here. I still have two houses and vineyard here. I still have my address, my everything, my base here. Yeah, and I have my U.S. My passport and all. Yeah, yeah. I come and go um, without without
oh,
problem. So
that's wonderful. I'm just saying because some places there's a lot of difficulty getting in and out of the country, and they don't want you investing there, or they do want you investing there. So you've navigated through a lot of different things. So I'm coming down my list here, and I'm wondering if there's some other things that you would want to discuss about or say verbally your website to our listeners so that the ones who are not, say, watching on YouTube, if they're at home listening on Spotify or Google Podcasts, they can jot down how they can find out more about Ancestral Highlands.
and can I go back just one quick minute?
Yeah, so we can go. We're not ending. We're just
Okay.
coming up with another question.
Okay, I appreciate your reference to the preparing meals for guests there and all, especially coming from you, Gail, because I know you are a phenomenal person around food in so many ways, professionally and so many ways. So I really appreciated your comments and our
Thank
connection there. Um, and I do enjoy preparing foods there. I wanted to comment because it's part of the culture there, it being very rural, high altitude, agricultural, no machines. People's diets there are very limited. Basically, the local people, it's wheat, corn, and potatoes that they grow on their land.
Do they have
And yeah,
diabetes or?
I- when I first moved there, there were two women still walking every day down in the town that were 103 years old,
Wow.
still walking. And how can people there remain with such health with diets like that? Um, and it's a mystery to me still, except that they don't have automobiles, they're on foot. There's more motorcycles with the youth now. So they're walking daily, they're doing hard work on the lands. But I really still don't understand how their health is maintained so well. A meat there, a traditional meat is cuy or guinea pig.
Ooh.
Uh,
Have you
very
eaten it?
Pardon?
Have you tried the guinea pig?
I tried it,
How was it?
and I am not a good person there in this respect. At this point, I avoid it whenever I can, but often I can't avoid it. The flavor is fine. It's a very low fat meat. There's not much meat to a guinea pig. And recently on the internet, there was a new scientific investigation where the guinea pig has some kind of, I think it's amino acid that isn't found in other meats that is extremely healthy for people.
This could be one of
So
their secrets.
Yeah,
I'm
there you
wondering
go.
maybe high altitude keeps people living longer also. I noticed my father pointed this out when I took him to the ceremony of the corn in the mountains of Mexico, that he said when he was looking at the Huichol men, that their chests were larger, like that they had been born with larger lungs or a capacity to be at that elevation, that the body was actually built a little different, where our chests don't look that way. That same, he said it was sort of like seeing a larger area for lungs to be, having a larger capacity for air. And so it seems like they, for the, I don't know, 1,000 years, I don't know how long they were living there, but that their bodies were also then kind of designed to live in that area. I'm wondering, do you see the same thing like that in the people there, where the chests feel really pronounced and like they have a larger lung capacity? And maybe it's also the other one. They're constantly exercising. They're not going to get diabetes. They're not going to get heart problems. They're walking off their bodies. If they're walking it up, I'm having a hard time at 70. I have to say, I have walking issues right now. And here's these people at 103, and maybe it's because there is no technology in cars and machinery, and they have to do everything with their actual body. I
Yeah.
don't know if, but that's a possibility.
Yeah, I think that's very true. And of course, with that amount of exercise, um, you see obesity, but not that tremendous amount. And the bodies are pretty lean. And when I first got there, a change I've noticed with these 12 years, when I first got there, the youth too, their activity, there weren't a lot of TVs, electricity, things. The youth were out in the streets or on the land, kicking around the soccer ball, playing volleyball into the night, in the dark. They were always out there. And now, where are they? If they're outdoors at all, they're on their cell phones, their faces in their cell phone. And of course, now they see these things that are projected on the internet and all from worldwide, these new innovations, and they want them. They want these modern things too, and that they see on their cell phones and all. So that is going to change a lot of things, but out there rurally, their education does not follow along these lines. They don't have the education in these modern things, in the technology and all. So yeah, I think there'll be a change in their health also.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, like in many, I think, rural areas, alcoholism can tend to be a problem. And when I think about it too, there's no movie theaters there. There's no, what do they have for relaxation, entertainment after their hard working days and all? So fiestas are huge. It's constant fiestas there with music and dancing on the high altitude on the land and all. But their aim for a good part of the people at these fiestas is the alcohol.
Hmm.
So yeah, that affects the health.
Yep.
And it's hard to bring education in, more and more education about what this is connecting to your health. But to people, hey, this is my relaxation. This is, you know.
So what do you do now with, like, do you have a DVD player, or do you have, what is your forms for entertainment and things? You're leaving behind this, the American culture. I'm not saying it's such a great culture, but I'm wondering, what are you doing for stimulation, or maybe you don't need those things. Like I don't know if I could live without my movies.
Yeah, well, I think it's partly my personality that I love quiet, peace and
Ah.
quiet. But I was there 11 years. I lived in one of the domes, so I only had a bedroom and bathroom. I didn't have a space to entertain guests unless we were down in the kitchen and dining room. Um, and now I have moved into one of the separate tiny little casitas where I have my own tiny little living room, and also I can have guests in a private space. For those 11 years, I did not have any television. Um, and this year I put in a television and I have Netflix.
Oh, so you have so you have internet there.
Yes, I have internet and Wi-Fi, very important to people, and often people coming for peace or ceremonies. I would prefer to say leave your phones at the door as you enter, please, and pick them up again when you leave, and add to your disconnect from the hectic world. But unfortunately, to me, that's not possible for most people. For they need to stay connected to business, to family, for emergencies. So they have their cell phones, and I don't have a computer there anymore. I only have my cell phone, but I have the movies this year on the TV.
Oh, I guess you could have a laptop, a small.
Yeah, I did initially, but I'm no longer using that. I'm perfectly happy on my
Yeah,
cell phone
I think you are.
and interacting with people down in the town, in the community. That's a treasure too. But oftentimes, I downtime without guests there and all. I just love sitting and enjoying the mountains, the nature, the views, the gardens, and where I am, we had the only flowers. Nobody around us had flowering plants because their lifestyle, all their energy, their money, anything they have goes into the crops for the land, and they didn't have there's no irrigation systems, no modern irrigation system, so they rely only on the rainy season.
So
So for me, mhm,
are you still, does your spring still supply all are the people allowed to come to your land and help themselves to the water from the springs, from the village people?
they are to my overflow water. Yes, they are very welcome to any of the overflow.
Oh, that's great.
I have like 9 tanks now because as the projects grew and I have more people visiting on the land and all, I have to be able to provide all their water for
Hmm.
showers, for laundry, for food, for everything. So I have to rely on that water. But uh, such a blessing. The water so far remains fully abundant, and I fill all my water tanks. We have to be careful in hot weather season how much water we put on the land and still keep water for people visiting there. But I have a tube of overflow that goes into a trench, and people can still come up, fill their jugs. One house somewhat above me. They have no water, electricity. They come down once a week and fill water jugs. It's their only source of water. But yeah, that's still, I can still share that with local people.
That's
And
beautiful.
yeah, like I say, and that's some of the changes, very recent too. The municipality is starting to bring in some tubes from lagunas high above for them to bring in some water systems, some irrigation systems, so they can have agriculture more times of the year than just the rainy season.
I have
Um,
to ask, this is because of me and you communicating over the years, but I believe, and just correct me if I'm wrong, because my memory isn't so great anymore. There were certain like acknowledgments and validation or certificates or things that your place received from, I believe that it was either the Peruvian government, I think some magazine did or something, or if you could just talk about the highlights of things that happened. I can't remember because it's been over the years, but I do remember something about the government praising what you had done, or I can't, do you remember what I'm talking about?
well, all I'm relating it to, because the municipality and the whole Conchucas regional area there decided at one point to try and um, provide better situations for tourists as far as restaurants and hotels. So they developed a program. They were going to come around and visit in each little town, village, visit the hotels and restaurants there and give them a rating. And the ones that were rated top were going to, in the future, they would bring the other restaurateurs, hotelers up there to see uh, what what was necessary for tourism, what offered the best for worldwide peoples. And then they came up and they evaluated my place and said, absolutely, hands down, you are 5 star, whatever, and bravo, and we are highly recommending you to anybody every time we can, and we look forward to bringing other businesses up here.
Beautiful.
Unfortunately, that whole program quickly fell through
Ah,
and it never got completed because it was very important to have this in our remote area.
mm-hmm.
Um, and so, there are restaurants I fully know the people, the restaurants there that I can recommend, um, and that I know they understand the importance of the hygiene, of the cold food storage, of the food preparation and all. Um, and of course, I follow all these. Being a Californian, I follow all this naturally in my own food preparation. And I had to bring part of my California roots with me. I had the only dishwasher in Chavindawantar because feeling like, the sanitation of
Yes.
dishes and things there. I have a large refrigerator. I now put in a separate freezer because I have to travel 2 hours to get the other foods I want to prepare for guests there. So I have a freezer to keep stocked. This kind of thing, where I brought in my roots.
I, I would think you could bring in blenders or I mean just juicers and things they wouldn't that and you plug that in into regular like can you bring a juicer from here and plug that in there or you have different electricity there and you have to use adapters, right?
Yeah, no, you can't do that. When I first went there and I packed in a suitcase a heavy ice cream maker because I missed my ice cream and there was no ice cream in the town.
Oh,
So I
oh, I
packed
was
that
mis
all the way
oh,
from California to Peru and out to the mountains. So excited, zip, I plug it in, bam, it burns up. The
uh,
electricity, very different, burned up the motor, and I got it repaired. But um, and even electricity, period, yes, it's different, and you have to have adapters or things that are built for that type of electricity, that voltage. And for electricity, there was none there. I had to bring in my own to Ancestral Highlands, and the electric company at first told me no, we won't bring electricity up to you. You're too far away, too high up. So I thought, okay,
wow.
end of project. But then one of their former electricians, engineers for the electric company, I met him and he said, no problem, I will get it there for you. So I have a huge electrical system that I brought in on my own, my private system, and apparently it's large enough. It could potentially connect 10 other houses to it. It's so big.
Wow. So other
Yeah.
people could possibly get electricity there if they were to hook up to it.
Yes, but the problem there is, and people were very excited. Okay, we're going to hook up, but they are required to have documented ownership of their land in order to hook into the electrical system. And
Oh,
people there, they don't have legal documentation to the land.
right.
Their whole families live there, have been living there. It's it just wasn't done that way.
Right. Generations living there. So
Yeah.
so when you have your own electricity, do you have to pay an electric bill then to the, so they put, and did you have, so you have the electricity, you can have your dishwasher, the only one there, and I guess you can have a washer and dryer.
Yes, I have my own washer and dryer because I have 22 beds there now for guests. I have to do the laundry and, of course, my own laundry
Wow.
and all. Um, but my stove, my oven is gas tanks that you bring up from town and connect because a mountain storms sometimes often electricity will go out, and I'm so grateful I can always rely on my gas stove and oven to keep the food going.
Right, right. Have you thought about a gas generator, or do you have one of those already?
No, and I would like to put a generator in there for these times. It would be very nice. I provide hot water showers and all in all the rooms for the guests, and if electricity goes out, so does their hot water. Um,
So if you have 22 guest rooms, what's the most amount of people that's comfortable for you to accommodate if someone's thinking about, you could have a small intimate wedding there.
I would love to do that in that beautiful mountain setting and around my
Yeah.
water feature. It would be a beautiful
Yes.
wedding site. Yes.
So I'm saying, how many people can you accommodate? If you have room, do you have 20 beds? So that means 20 people, or,
Well, I have 22 beds, and some are from queen size down to individual beds and into bunk beds. And so each three different eras of construction there. Each era is a different type of construction. The first, the domes, and each room has a double bed and a single bed. So each dome can have three people, yes, in there.
oh,
The
nice.
middle construction era were dormitory rooms, very small, less expensive for people. And just each room has one set of bunk beds in it and a shared bathroom down the hall, little balcony overlooking the town. Um, and those dormitory rooms can house 12 people in total, separate rooms. And then the latest construction, my final construction, no more, thank you,
Okay.
is
So you've done a
more,
lot.
yeah, is more fitting of my background and all. It's more modernized. It took advantage of the terrain, the spot I had on the land, this beautiful spot that looks dramatically across the ravine, the town below, to the mountains on the other side. Beautiful views. So you walk in, I open the door, ask guests, are you ready? I open the door. They gasp.
Oh,
The front wall, the whole front wall for the bedrooms and it has a living room and all, is a glass wall view onto the mountains. And it can house a total of six people at one time. Um, so the spaces are three different types of housing for people's preferences, which is very nice. A lot of people really like those domes. They want to be in the
that's what
dome.
I'm drawn to. Just sleeping in that space.
Yeah,
So
yeah. But the most
where
recent construction has a huge balcony also with views of the mountains and the
uh
archaeological site directly below. So that's a draw too.
so um could you now say your website, or the place where people would be able to go and see photos or contact you or find out if they wanted to book a trip or a wedding at Ancestral Highlands? Could you say that slowly for anyone wanting to write it down?
Okay, the most direct current usage is people are using WhatsApp, and it doesn't matter where they are in the world. I use my United States phone in Peru, so they can still connect with my USA phone number. It's no problem through WhatsApp. And
What's
that number is 1-209-210-7201. And then we can talk quickly and make reservations and all through that. They can also send me an email at Laskey, HLASKEY, numbers 47 at gmail.com. And to see photos, more photos, and all, um, on Facebook, if they do Facebook, I have two pages. One is simply called Ancestral Highlands. The other one is Ancestral Highlands Cultural Center. And there's a lot of photos, people's comments there. Also on Google Maps, you can see people's photos and comments. I have had straight 5-star reviews on Google Maps.
And you have a few thousand followers as well. So
Yes.
I think that's all doing well. So we're on our moment now where we're over our hour's time. I've looked through my questions, and because of how we spoke, you've answered all the questions, and I had about 10 questions here, but they intertwined with other things we talked about, and you answered them all. So I'm wondering if there's anything here where you have some words of wisdom or anything you might want to offer anyone thinking about all of a sudden jumping ship in their home and life and moving to a whole nother country, which apparently a lot of people are doing these days because of the state of our government here. And I'm wondering, it doesn't have to be necessarily about that, but any words of wisdom for our listeners that you'd like to share?
Well, I don't feel wisdom is a big term to me, but for
Okay.
my
Okay, just any words that you'd like to share.
okay, thank you. Um, from my own experience, I would just say from my own experience, even before Peru and all, and for experiences for people in Peru, medicine plant experiences, all from that point of view, clearing your own emotional history storage um, is highly beneficial in my experience and can open you up to your base self. And through that, I feel like you feel your heart so clearly, your intuition. And that was never a part of a strong approach in my life in early years, but it is now if you can clear and listen to your intuition. And if possible, if you can follow that intuition. And my experience, it can lead you into such fulfillment in your life and such magical places. And I think for a lot of us, I think for me in the past, for a lot of people, it's like, okay, I want to know. I want to know where I'm going. I want the details. I want the plans and all. But to me, opening up to the intuition and going with that and flowing with that is so huge. So that is just the recommendation I leave from my own point of view. I hope other people can have similar fulfillment.
Thank you. Those are definitely words that I know has made and enriched my life because I did things and went to places by myself alone, just like you, to remote areas. And all those experiences have brought me lifetime friendships with people of other cultures and has enriched my life in ways that if I'd have just sat home and not listened to my gut, I would just still be sort of in a, these were stimulating, exciting things. And it's from not listening to, oh, you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, yeah. Are you crazy? Or yeah.
Yes, do very beautiful words. So I'm going to close now, and I want to say thank you to Holly and just how lucky we are that she happened to be in California for us to do this Zoom. And I also want to thank my son Rich for producing the show, and my daughter Nancy for posting the show, and my husband David for writing the descriptions for me. So it's a little family operation here on this podcast, and I'm grateful for all their help. So remember, you can find us on Spotify, Google Podcast, YouTube, and all other social media channels. And remember, listeners, share your stories because stories can heal. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye, Gail. Big hug. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. You've made it a wonderful day.